Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert Camo, the fantasy football counselor, got a big episode. We are talking about high-risk players in the studio here. Well, virtually in the studio. We got Tanner Pfeiffer from Pfeiffer Football. Make sure you guys follow him below here on YouTube. What's going on, Tanner?
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. We did a show yesterday with league winners. Like the chemistry, some good feedback. You got some haters already, man. Like, I'm pretty impressed. Like, first episode, you got some haters.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. I read the comments, but you know what? I've always been a friendly guy. I just try to kill them with kindness, and they don't like that, and it makes more haters. But you know what? Bring it on. I love to talk fantasy football.
You're doing something right if you got haters. So,
yep.
That's just the way it goes. So, yeah, I'm excited to have your expertise on here. You've got a great Instagram page. How do they find you on Instagram?
Well, I just recently went through a brand change, but you can go Pfeiffer Football. That's Pfeiffer Football. You'll see me have a cool new profile picture, but just going through a rebrand. You guys can find me there. Join a very, very nice community.
And the thing is, you are pretty much breaking news almost as it happens, right? You got a lot of inside sports news, lots of information, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to report things as fast as I can, but I really do focus on quality instead of just quantity. So I may be a few minutes later than some of these bigger guys out there, but I try to make some very good graphics and overlays, and I focus a lot on the quality. I want to give my followers the best quality that I can.
Absolutely. Check them out, Pfeiffer Football, Instagram and YouTube. So, guys, we're talking high-risk players. Before we get into this, manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLINE. Get yourself a trimmer. Save yourself 20% by using promo code SHOWERLINE. Underwear, ball wipes, amazing trimmers, fit and finish, guys. Manscaped.com, promo code SHOWERLINE, and get that 16-round draft solution below at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com or click on the link below. It's a game changer. You don't have to work off cookie-cutter consensus rankings or outdated magazines. I've got one right here, guys. I mean, this thing gets outdated upon print. It's got Cam Akers here sitting at number 12 on the rankings. 16 rounds I updated. So you've got everything virtually, video training. This is the game changer. Draft kits and cheat sheets and magazines are dead. Get 16 rounds below.
And those magazines are not cheap anymore.
They're not, man. I mean, this one is like $16 Canadian, $13 US plus tax.
They're like $15 here in the US. So
you're literally just getting something that's outdated upon print based on cookie cutter rankings from last year. That's why I created 16 rounds. And that, like, I was just so sick of it. So I said, hey, got to change the game, get 16 rounds. And people are loving it. I mean, I'm getting DM'd all the time. Joe, I love my roster. It's balanced. I got depth. I got a backup plan for a backup plan. I know who the sleepers are.
Heck yeah.
You know, like for example, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like he's in a good position to succeed at wide receiver. And like he could bust, but at least in 6 rounds, you know, you're aware of him. Here in the magazine, he's ranked 73rd. I don't know if you could see it here.
Yeah, I see him.
So like, I remember
could be a good steal there.
Yeah, I remember he used to buy these magazines like when I was like 12 years ago before I got in this industry. I'd be like, okay, like you wouldn't even look at a 73rd ranked wide receiver, but in 16 rounds, you'll be aware of where to draft them based on ADP. And, you know, he's going to be like your wide receiver 4 or 5, but you're going to have him on your roster. Just being aware of that. Like Justin Jefferson last year was ranked 59th on the Sheep's rankings. I told you to draft him round 8 and he crushed it. So, you know, it's a game changer. So guys, get 16 rounds below. Just experience it, you know, and I price it so everybody can get it. Okay. All right, so high-risk players. What do we mean by this, Tanner? Pretty much, you asked me before the show, pretty much, you know, rookies are high risk. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's a risk, but he's not a high risk because I can get him with the last pick. I can get him with the second last pick. I can get him with the third last pick. Elijah Moore, he's a risk. Jamar Chase, risk. But I don't have to invest a first, second, third, fourth, even a fifth-round pick on some of these guys. High risk is a guy that's coming off round 1, 2, 3, and you have to invest early draft capital in him, and he's in a tough, you know, in a position that has some question marks, or even like a Deshaun Watson, who's a big name, not necessarily going high on ADP, but is a big name, well known, but comes with some risk. Okay, so
high risk there.
Yeah, there's some high risk, right? Because there's some legal actions going on and stuff like that. So we're just going to open discussion. I don't want to do a list. We're just going to talk about it. So I'm going to bring up your name. We'll discuss, and we'll just make it an interactive conversation. Everything, a lot of stuff I do, not everything, but a lot of stuff I do is based on top 10 this, top 10 that, list this, list that. I want to start branching out with Tanner and start doing more open discussion, just talking football, okay? Particularly in this case, fantasy football through the year, more football, more waiver wire. kind of what's going on, breaking news, situations, Tanner. Like if someone gets arrested, someone's denying to get a jab, if you know what I mean. We want to talk about, situations. I think this would be really good to give people feedback, right? Like Cole Beasley just denied the jab, okay, the vax. And it's like,
Yep.
hey, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about him as a person, how I feel about that, pro-choice. I want to start opening it up to more open discussion. So, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe for not only fantasy talk, but pro football talk as well. We're going to get into that more. I think it's going to be exciting for the fans instead of just the top 10 this, top 10 that, bust this, sleeper that, right? All right, so let's just open this up to discussion here. First guy here, I'm just going to open talk. He's a risk for me. I think he's a huge risk because of the way he is ranked so high. Let's talk about him. AJ Brown. Now, AJ Brown sitting ninth on the the consensus, the magazines.
Yep.
AJ Brown is a great player. There's no denying that, Tanner. I mean, you can probably vouch for that. I mean, he's a great player. But
Yep.
the
Tons
problem
of talent.
let me state my point here, and you tell me if I'm crazy or not. Ryan Tannehill was 18th in pass attempts last year amongst quarterbacks. AJ Brown had 106 targets peaked, right? Max. And now you've got, Julio Jones there on a run first team. So my question to you is, and I have my hypothesis, I have my guesses here. How many targets do you think AJ Brown's going to see with Julio there, maxing out at 106 targets last year with only about 400? How many passing attempts did Ryan had? I think he had 400 passing attempts last year, 418 or something like that. So I don't think genuinely that the volume is going to be there, and how is he going to finish top 10? I don't see
I
it.
agree. Totally agree. AJ Brown's a high risk player because not only Julio Jones is there, Ryan Tannehill, what you said, 18th in pass attempts in the league.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, was it Arthur Smith, who is now the head coach of the Falcons? He was like their run game coordinator, right? So, or their offensive coordinator. And he's the one that would rush Derrick Henry. I mean, he might pass a little more now that he's gone, but I've never been that big on Ryan Tannehill. He has played incredibly well since he's gone to Tennessee, but he's not one of those offensive guys who literally will just pass attempt after pass attempt. He's not Matt Ryan. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to throw it, 40 times a game. With Julio Jones there, I see him taking you said 104 targets last year?
Oh, I believe it was 106 targets for AJ Brown last year.
Yeah, 106 targets. I would take at least 30, 40 targets off of that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his completions. There's some games where he went over 40. There's 2 games or 3 games last year where Tannehill threw over 40, but you're, 21, 27, 22 games, attempts, passing attempts. So is there going to be enough attempts? Is there going to be enough volume to make AJ Brown a totally viable top 10 guy with Julio there, who is the wide receiver one? Now, here's the thing that I have a problem with. It's like, okay, Julio had a bad season. I mean, he got hurt, he got banged up. And there's a debate that he's getting older, and I get it, but I still think it was just one bad season. I think it was a lingering hammy or leg issue, something like that. And it's the recency bias that discounts his ability. And that's what bothers me. You know what I mean? I think
he's on a new team. Julio's on a new team, a new environment. It's a playoff contender team. Yes. I don't see the Titans as a Super Bowl contender, just in my opinion, but they're still a playoff contender. They can make a push for it. The Falcons, you lose motivation. Year after year, the Falcons just disappoint. So I think that he's going to go in there with a new heart, new attitude, and he's excited. He's eager, and he's going to be taking a lot of targets away from AJ Brown.
And he's got some hungry guys around him with Derrick Henry.
Absolutely. It's a winning team.
Yeah. So, but again, for fantasy football, it's a high risk. AJ Brown, huge high risk. You got a high risk guy for us?
Allen Robinson.
Yeah. I mean, he's sitting top 10 on the consensus and
ranked a little high for me, honestly.
Why do you think he's high risk? And I'll try to chime in too, because I think he's high risk as well.
It's the Bears offense. It's just the Bears offense. I'm not doubting him as a player or talent-wise, but that's a wide receiver 2, in my opinion. Wide receiver 1. I mean, he's kind of just got this hype around him because, he had that whole contract dispute and he got franchise tagged. But, I mean, who's his starting quarterback? They say it's going to be Andy Dalton, right?
Yeah, to start.
Justin Fields.
He'll be relatively efficient. I don't think he goes out there and busts it, but I don't think he'll be extraordinary. I don't think,
No. Until Justin Fields starts and gets the hang of it, because we don't know how Justin Fields is really going to do. Ohio State quarterbacks still have this trademark of not really panning out so well. But until he's passing 30, 40 times a game, Allen Robinson, who's really the main target threat there,
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's a huge risk. He's a huge risk. And again, you're investing early draft capital in a guy in a uncertain situation.
People are picking him in the first round.
Really,
With the,
I haven't seen that in mocks. He's usually second or third from
I've
what I
seen it in mocks. I mean,
well, yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean,
I'm not big on Allen Robinson though.
well, the thing is, he's sitting 9 or 10 right on the Kinship's rankings, the magazines, the cheat sheets, ADPs when you're in these lobbies or mock drafts. So I see him coming off typically in the mid second round, kind of the earliest I've seen him come off, right? Because you've got guys coming off ahead of him at the late first.
But he's not even worth the second round pick for me.
No, I
I
mean,
don't. That's high.
I see a ceiling. Like I definitely see it. Like he could go off, but when was the last time he really went off? That was like Jacksonville year. What year was that? I mean, that was
Freak.
2016 or something like that. What was that year? He had like 14 touchdowns. Like I got to go back here and check it out. It was like 2015. He had a 1,400 yard, 14 touchdown season. Is that going to happen again? Highly unlikely, right?
That's like saying Randall Cobb is going to have a great season again. Honestly, I mean, not comparing the two talents, but
yeah,
just the opportunity there. I don't see it. I don't see the Bears having that pass heavy offense. That's just not them.
No, they're going to run more with Montgomery as well, which I do like. I got a high risk here guy for you. Actually, I got a lot of high risk guys here. But speaking of 1,400 yard seasons, like Allen Robinson did back in was it 2015, Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson, listen, in 16 rounds, if you got it, you got him in the 8th round last year. He was a waiver wire wonder by the Kinship's. Now he's sitting number 7 on the rankings. I'm going to pull up this trusty old magazine and see where they've got him ranked here. It's like everybody's riding his dick now. He's number 10 here in the magazine, number 7 on the consensus rankings, typically top 10 on every sheep rankings, website, wide receiver rankings I've seen. And I kind of get it. Like he's kind of shown he can be the wide receiver 1, but I got him in the 8th round. That was value. Now I got to risk a 7th. Sorry,
he's 6 on this side I'm looking at, and that's too high.
Yeah, and like I get it. Like in the 8th round, I get he had a 1,400 yard season, and I get there's more ceiling. But Thielen, I'd rather get the value of Thielen, who is I know he's a big touchdown dependent guy, but Jefferson again, 1 year. I can't say he's unproven, but will he repeat that? Is this going to stay consistent? And again, do I have to invest a 2nd round pick to find out? I think that's a big risk for me. And for that reason, and the reason that I'm going robust RB most likely and getting a running back at that ADP, I get a Calvin Ridley who's a little more proven, knowing that Matt Ryan throws it like 5,000 times in a season. I feel safer with Ridley as my wide receiver there in the 2nd round over a guy like Jefferson, who again coming off one pinnacle year. And again, what happens with pinnacle years, Tanner, is that a lot of guys decline in their 2nd year, maybe sophomore slump, stuff like that. And
well, you remember what I said last episode? I was like, I need at least 2 consecutive good seasons before I really put my trust in a player. And I'm not going to draft Jefferson in the 1st round. Maybe he's definitely be a decent 2nd round pick, but like you said, sophomore slump's a real thing, and it just depends. I mean, he had a great rookie season, but can you really trust him to do that again? You're going to put all your trust in a 1st round pick to do that again?
I trust him, but not in the 2nd round. Like that's what I mean. Like I think he's gonna have a good season. I'm just not investing. Again, 8th round last year. Hell yeah, I grabbed him.
Yeah, it's a steal.
But that's the thing. So this year in 16 rounds, you're gonna determine who the next Jefferson is, and I kind of discussed that. I mean, there's no guarantees.
I know who it is.
But you can load up on Elijah Moore. You can load up on Amon St. Brown. There's a ton of guys that could go off. Okay?
I have Jamar Chase there. He's the Justin Jefferson, his college teammate.
Yep.
Joe Burrow. If Jamar Chase is there in the 7th, 8th round, it's worth the risk there.
And it's not even high risk because his ADP is a lot lower than Jefferson. That's what I mean. You can load up on a ton of wide receivers later that could break out and even surpass Justin Jefferson without investing a 2nd round pick. So another high risk. Who else do you got? Any other high risk from your end there?
There's TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, he's a risk. 3rd round, man. He's coming off 3rd round. Tell me why he's high risk.
I don't know. I don't feel like he didn't even score that high in Fantasy Point City last year. Let me look here.
Oh, he was safe. The reason he's so high is because there's no other wide receiver unless Amon or St. Brown steps up. But he had a safe year. He played 16 games, 101 targets, 67 receptions, 6 touchdowns, finishing 5th amongst tight ends last year.
That ain't bad.
Yeah, it's respectful. And then this year, he's got Goff. But I mean, how often does Goff? You gotta ask this question. How often does Goff throw the tight ends? And then you got to literally look back at what the Rams did last year at tight end. And if you look at that, Higbee was the number 1. Actually, Everett was the number 1 target with 62. and five touchdowns for Higbee. So he does look at tight ends in the end zone, and he hasn't had a good tight end, as good of a tight end as Hawkinson. But again, third round pick is a risk. Let's be honest here.
He's going as a third round.
Yeah, he's coming off third round. That's pretty much his ADP. I've seen him slip
unless that's Travis Kelce or like a Kittle or like someone that literally has the track record of like insane amount. I don't ever pick a tight end in the third round. That's just not what I do. That's not how I've drafted fantasy football. You always get like running back. I balance it. Running back, receiver, something like that. But for third round, no, absolutely not.
This is the only year I've always waited on tight end. This is the only year I may consider Kyle Pitts and Hawkinson in round 3. The only year, simply because I know there's a lot of, because I can load up. Listen to this. I can load up on 2 running backs. I know there's a ton of wide receivers. I know I can get good wide receivers after round 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's a ton of wide receivers. So tight ends, there's a big drop-off after Kittle, Kelce, Waller, and Andrews. It's a drop-off. And then the only guys that I see emerging, aside from maybe a long shot like Gesicki or someone like that, Hawkinson and Pitts could emerge as being a top 3 tight end. That's why I'm willing to take the risk. Very high risk for both. So let's throw him in the mix. Kyle Pitts. Both these guys are very high risk tight ends, but both of them have that ceiling, that opportunity, are in a position to succeed. High risk, but majorly high reward based on the tight end position.
I see one of those like sleeper tight ends. I see not necessarily a high risk because you can get him in a later round is Noah Fant.
Yeah, Noah Fant could be solid, but again, you're in a suspect situation with that offense. Like, who's going to be the quarterback?
Right,
who do you think is going to be the quarterback? I'm hearing Locke looking inconsistent,
and I don't trust Locke. That's the only problem with the Broncos offense is their quarterback situation is awful right now.
Yeah, but I heard Bridgewater is looking better in camp. I don't know if you heard anything about that.
I trust Bridgewater over Locke any day.
Yeah, and he's looking better in camp, looking more like he's owning the days when you're looking at camp. So I mean, Drew Lock obviously dealing with inconsistency issues. We're gonna have to see how it plays up, but I think Bridgewater is a starter. You've got Sutton back, so that could draw some targets away from Fant. But yeah, definitely a good tight end sleeper. And with tight ends, again, I don't put a lot of emphasis or weight on them. I like to get a guy that gets me 10 points a week, so I'd be happy with that.
Yep.
All right, so I got some more high risk guys here for you. It
hit me.
It keeps going and going. So quarterback here, and I've said this before, is Jalen Hurts. Like, Jalen Hurts is top 10. I looked at the magazines. I looked at the consensus.
Yeah, I know.
What's the deal? Like, I don't get it. Like, top 10 for a guy who's literally done nothing in the NFL. When you look at the quarterback position, Tanner, quarterbacks are more proven. Like, you can see more of a history of like, hey, this guy performs good. Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, or, Ryan Tannehill. You can see like a pattern. With Jalen Hurts, you're basically banking on ceiling. And the problem is a lot of people comparing him to Lamar Jackson, which he's not. So
not even close.
And it's on the Eagles. So what do you think? Do you think Hurts, boom or bust there?
Hurts, for as high as he is right now, he's a bust. I mean, the guy only had 148 pass attempts last season, 52 completions, or I'm sorry, 77 completions.
Yeah.
And he had 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I mean, like, what?
What has he done?
Nothing. He has done nothing to be considered a top 10 quarterback right now. I don't understand why he is. He's even as high as like 7 or 8 in some of these lists.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I mean, he's I mean, he needs more opportunity to prove himself. I believe there is a huge upside there, but like, what are you basing that off of? There's like, I don't understand why he would even be considered a top 10 quarterback right now. I would not draft him maybe as a backup, like in a later round, but no.
What I don't like as well is that the Eagles are flirting with Deshaun Watson, right? That tells me that they're not really sold on Jalen Hurts, right? Miami flirting, Tua, is he like a lock? I don't trust him either. So
I don't trust Tua either.
And that's the thing. Like, why do you have Jalen Hurts in the top 10 and you have Tua like 20th? Like, there's literally no difference between these guys. They're both in, similar situations, right? Where they're young, they haven't been proven too much. They're both, fighting to keep their job, and coaches are flirting with other players. They're literally theoretically in the same position where you have young wide receivers. One's got Waddle, one's got Smith. They're both kind of in that fresh, I'm going to get that starting role type of scenario. It's
funny because they're both like those Alabama duos, I just think that's funny. They're similar situations. They were teammates. But they're both like, the Eagles right now are literally like the highest contenders right now for Deshaun Watson. So I'm like, why in the world are these fantasy football rankers putting Jalen Hurts so high. He's may not even be the quarterback for who knows how long. I mean, I'm not high on Jalen Hurts at all. He
It's a
has a
broken
lot of
system.
upside though.
It's a broken system. I tell you that much. Okay. So yeah, big risk, very, very high risk. I'm going to stay the hell away.
Yeah.
What else do you got there for a high risk guy?
Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
Nick
yeah.
Chubb.
There you go. We didn't plan this, by the way. We did not talk about this before. I do not like Nick Chubb. Why?
Well, you got Kareem Hunt. You're splitting
Yeah.
your load. Kareem Hunt has been total unrealistic talent. I mean, I loved him in Kansas City. I thought he was going to be their franchise running back. Then I think he had some legal issues. And then the Browns, I think, did they trade for him or was
They
he
got him cheap.
released?
Remember they got him cheap. He was suspended or something, or he
Yeah,
was released, and then he was a free agent, and then they paid like $1 million to get him in his first year, which
yeah,
is a deal for a guy who was the rushing leader in 2017. So
yeah.
he came in, and again, he came in a committee with Chubb, who's one trick pony. He can catch, but not really. So yeah, I mean, if you look at PPR stats last year, yes, Nick Chubb missed a couple games, but understand, guys, he was outscored by Kareem Hunt in PPR last year. I don't care any way you slice it or dice it, injury
Kareem
or
Hunt,
not.
his
Yeah.
talent isn't insane. Nick Chubb's talent is insane, but
Right.
he's going too high. He's got too much hype around him. Nick Chubb is great, but you've got a duo there that you're literally splitting the load.
Yeah.
And you got threats all around. You've got Jarvis Landry, you got Odell Beckham, eating targets, and just I'd stay away for sure.
Yeah. So give me Nick Chubb in the 5th round. I'm not taking him in the first. That's the problem. He's top 10 everywhere. Everywhere you
Yes,
look.
everywhere.
I'm going to consult my trusty magazine and see where he's sitting here. But again, everywhere you look is top 10, and never invest in a situation where the guy behind him in the committee, his name, or he's can outscore him and he takes all the PPR numbers. That's why robust RB is so good. He's top 10 in the magazine. He's number 10. That's why robust RB is so important, because only a handful of running backs that have minimal committees. So yeah, Nick Chubb,
Yep.
I'm staying away, not investing a late first round, early second on a guy who busted last year based on his ADP and still in the top 10 based on a popularity contest. Yes, he can get the rushing attempts. Yes, he gets the goal line work, but with Kareem Hunt there, forget it. Just not going to do it.
There's just too much talent. Kareem Hunt is I don't know. They're splitting the loads basically.
Yeah.
And it's going to
So
be boom or bust for either one of those running backs per game. You don't know which one's gonna blow up.
So we covered tight ends. I mean, Hawkins and Pitts, obviously very high risk guys. We went a little bit to quarterbacks. I want to jump back to quarterback, though, and I want to talk about this guy. Trust me, I love the reward here. I love the talent. I love the opportunity. But Dak Prescott, I mean, we got to talk about him, because this guy coming off a major injury, is he going to come back the same way he's supposed to be last year? We don't know. And now already showing signs of like, hey, I got an arm strain. Like, I know it could be minor. He got an MRI,
Yeah.
missing some practice. Is that going to linger? Like, we already got a leg injury, right? We got a leg injury. Is it going to linger with this MRI, the shoulder strain? Are you concerned about Dak Prescott?
Absolutely. I've never drafted Dak Prescott. He was on this insane pace last year, like a record-setting pace. But like you said, that awful, nasty ankle injury. I know that he's suiting up in pads, but he's not practicing for like at least 3 days.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to have like an injury-riddled year. I mean, there's other safer quarterbacks that I would pick.
Yes.
So that, I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the way it is. There's safer quarterbacks to pick than Dak Prescott.
I agree.
I'm staying away.
Although the ceiling is there, believe me. Here's one, and it goes against let's go back to running back. Here it goes against kind of what what I believe in. I think it's a huge bounce back year. Saquon Barkley, a guy coming off an injury. He's been injured past couple years. All we're going off is pretty much his 2018 year. We had that amazing year. Got injured the year after. Still finished in the top 10. So now you're looking at a guy who really has not crushed it since like 2019, really. But he's in a better situation where they actually got wide receivers, so less stacked boxes, hungry year. Now, from what I understand, he may be limited when he starts, but again, you're investing a top 5 pick to get this guy. Talent, youth, opportunity, bounce back year. What do you think of Saquon Barkley? I think he's going to crush it. I think he's a high risk, but majorly high reward.
Super high risk. Super high risk. Like you said, I'm pretty sure he's been injured every single season except for his rookie year.
Yeah.
I only know if he played in all 16 games his rookie season. He may have. I don't
think he did. Yeah. Let me just pull that up here while you're talking. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So like, it's just a high risk because you can almost expect him to be injured. The talent is there, absolutely. When he's on the field, you know you're going to get some fantasy points, double-digit figures at least. Now I think they've reworked that offensive line. They've got some more talent there. Daniel
Yeah.
Jones expected to have kind of a bounce back season, but this is a make or break year for Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I think Saquon's got hands too. He can catch PPR. The upside's definitely there, but he's a huge high risk player because I mean, just look at his injury history. I'm not sold on Saquon. I like other options there, but like if he's there, you know, at my pick and my top choices on my draft board were taken, I'd pick him. But you got to know what the kind of risk you're taking there is. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
know that you're going to draft some backups later on.
Well, I'm all about what goes up must come down, what goes down must come up. This is a make or break season from figure, like not, no pun intended. Like it's literally a make or break. Like this is it. So he did
Yeah.
finish 16 games that first season back in
How
2018.
many?
16. He did play the
Okay.
full season,
Okay.
1,307 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 91 receptions. It was a great year. I think that type of year can happen again. And what I like is again, there's nobody in the backfield that's going to take volume away from him. Like there's just
No.
nobody.
The Giants, I think, did just sign Alfred Morris, but like
Oh my God, is he still around? Are you
yeah,
kidding me?
he's still around. They signed
Alfred
Alfred.
Morris is still
Yeah,
around?
they signed Alfred Morris, but he's just a backup. Just a backup.
What the hell? Like that's how out of the loop I am with these backups and these free agents that you haven't heard. Alfred Morris is still in the league, and people
Yeah.
rip on me. Like I go in the comments, like someone breaks that news, I'll go in the comments, be like, "That guy's still around." They're like, "Shut up, Joe! Shut up, dude!" Like, come on. When was the last time you heard Alfred Morris's name? It was like when he was on the Cowboys, backup to like DeMarco Murray or something like that. I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
It's so long ago.
I remember Alfred Morris mainly because he was like a franchise for Washington. He was there for like several years, but like he's got to
For
be old
Washington.
now.
It was for Washington, I think. He was on
Yeah,
Washington.
he was on the Cowboys though. He was on the Cowboys.
He was as well after that. Yeah.
Yep. But like he's done nothing since he's in Washington. No, I don't think anyone's really drafted him in fantasy since he was a lead back in Washington.
He's so forgettable.
But this is what I hope to provide you with. I am excited for the opportunity because I want to be your news guy. And when I post news, you guys can stay updated. I'm like, hey, stay away from this guy. He just had an injury. He's gonna be out for the first 2 weeks. I want to be the first one to let you know. You know, I'm excited to be that guy for you.
Like I'm told like Alfred Morris. Like, is he really playing?
Yeah, I think he's already spent a year with the Giants.
He says he's a free agent now. Are you sure he signed? Yeah, it says Giants hosting Alfred Morris. It says he's expected to sign.
I think he's already. From what I've heard, he's gonna sign.
Yeah, I mean he's just that insurance policy, literally. But
yeah, because there's no one else there. Who's their backups?
It's like Booker or something like that. It's like
Booker.
Yeah.
Giants depth chart. Let me see this.
No, seriously, that's how bad it is. That's what I'm telling you. Like, there's literally like nobody there. It's like
it is Devontae Booker, Corey Clement.
Yeah, like people that you're never gonna like. Who's heard of Gary Brightwell? Point I'm trying to make is if you don't know the name of the backup of that starting running back, just don't you know what I mean? Just draft him because he's not going to have a challenger. But again, I think he's going to get integrated. He's a high risk. Let's move on from him. Two other running backs here. Obviously, let's just put them in one package together. Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler. Eckler, years to wow, I'm not wowed. I know you like Eckler, but he was behind Melvin Gordon for years, didn't surpass him really. Got injured last year, couldn't take the load. And Dalvin Cook, who has not finished the season. Now, it's up to you to decide because you're investing a first-round pick on these guys. If you want them, Eckler was always a backup, busted last year on injury, and Dalvin Cook, he's going to miss a game or two. It's just a matter of which game he's going to miss. You just got to roll the dice. And that
I love both of them. Tons of upside there. But like you said, Eckler, he showed me. I drafted him last year. He showed me could not handle the load, injury. He's kind of a smaller back. Great in PPR, but he can blow up. He's definitely a boom or bust running back, and you can expect him to get injured again. That's just how I feel about Eckler.
Me too.
Now, I do love him. I love his play style. He reminds me of like a quick, shifty, almost like a Shady McCoy or a Darren Sproles kind of guy. But I mean, definitely a first round is high for me for Eckler.
And Cook, I mean, he's great. He's a great player, gets the volume, but will that continue? And again, missing the fantasy football playoffs week 16 in 2019. Last year had a good year, missed a couple games, but I could say last year was his best year in regards to consistency.
Yes, it was.
Will that continue, though? That's a question.
I hope so. I mean, if you're going to spend a first round pick on him, I think if you don't get him in the first round, I don't think he's going to be available by the time it's your pick in the second round.
Obviously, Cook's coming off top 4 pick.
Yeah. So Cook, huge risk, but like the reward there, he could lead the league in rushing if he's healthy, if he stays healthy. But like you said, he hasn't finished a complete season in his entire 4 years already. So
Yeah.
that's
So
I don't
good.
know. You just
All right.
expect him to miss some games. That's what's going to happen.
Any other high risk guys? Like I say, high risk. There's a ton of other risks. Jameis Winston's a risk. Daniel Jones is a risk. Zach Wilson's a risk. There's like, man,
All right, you're going to disagree with this one. And a lot of you in the comments, roast me if you want, but I Justin Herbert.
Oh no, I love him. I love him.
I know.
Why is he a risk? I mean, he's proven he could be the guy. I know we talked about Jefferson going in a second year, but he's a wide receiver. This is a quarterback that's
exactly. To me, a quarterback is like the most. I mean, it's a hard position. How are you going to repeat that rookie season or even get close to that? How many touchdowns did he pass for? Like 31?
31, I believe.
That's really good for a rookie. Now he's got all the weapons there on the offense, and that's why I like Keenan Allen, because Hunter Henry's not there, and I don't think they have like a really big name tight end anymore right now. But
they got Cook.
What's that?
They got Jared Cook. Cook will be good.
Yeah, but how old is Jared Cook? Isn't he a little bit older now?
He's older, but he can get it done in the red zone.
34 years old. Yeah, I mean,
after Josh Palmer, rookie Josh Palmer, going to get some reps. Mike Williams can't stay on the field. They've got
Mike Williams always hurt.
Yeah, they've got a decent receiving, not the best receiving core. It's going to be on Keenan Allen, which I think will have a great year if he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy,
I think Herbert's the real deal. I really think he's a guy.
I hope he's the real deal. I really love the Chargers. Always been a fan of the Chargers, but I mean, like that's a hard year to come back and repeat or even match. Now he's got the talent to surpass that for sure, but like the Chargers, literally every year, injury bug. They're one of the most injured teams year after year in football. If anything happens on that offensive line, and I believe they signed Brian Bulaga.
Yeah.
And he's always had an injury problem. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. That guy's always hurt. So like they just have an injury bug there in LA on the Chargers. Always have. So I'm worried. If he can repeat that season, that's great. But as like a top 5 QB, I don't know about that. Is he going as like a top 5?
No, that's the thing. So he's risky, I guess, if you think about it, but he's not a high risk. So you get him in the 5th round. So in fantasy, not so much of a risk because you can always get a good backup after him. There's a ton of depth at quarterback. I don't look at him as a risk at all. I think he's going to have a solid season. If there's anybody that's going to rival Pat Mahomes for the best quarterback in the league, I think it's going to be this guy. I think he's that good.
Really?
I think he's that good. We will see. I think
we will see. I think he's a high risk though. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some good young quarterbacks and Josh Allen, you've got Herbert, you've got some good talent coming in. Other guys, Tua, Hurts still got to prove themselves, but I think this guy is consistent for sure.
We'll find out.
So yeah, those are your high risk guys. We just went over a ton of guys here that you just got to be careful with drafting, but with high risk usually comes high reward. Some of these guys could really boom, but you now understand the risk that comes with him. Dalvin Cook, don't be surprised if he gets hurt because he hasn't finished the season. Austin Eckler, don't be surprised if he busts. He's not a starting running back, right? Like, Saquon, I'm going to draft him knowing that, hey, this guy's been hurt, but I love the ceiling, and that's the risk I'm willing to take, but I'm going to back myself up. And that's what you do, guys, in the 60-round draft session. So head on over there, get 60 rounds right now, or thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. Tanner Pfeiffer from Pfeiffer Football, thanks for being on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Guys, I appreciate it.
Follow him below, guys, and be careful of the high-risk guys. Balanced roster. Okay, guys, we're going to bring Tanner back more often, talk football, and follow his page for breaking news, guys, on Instagram. We'll talk soon. We're out.
All right.